Hi everybody, good evening. Welcome to another live class in our channel, Spanish with Mike. Last week we had an interesting class. We learned about articles, how to use the articles in Spanish, and we had some additional bonus information with some concepts on how to use also nouns, because in Spanish, nouns usually have the gender, right? We have gender for nouns. So this is a tricky part in Spanish, but we learned a few things that could be useful in order to master this. And remember, this requires practice. Tonight, we're going to learn how to use the verb gustar, which is so tricky. So tricky. The verb gustar is one of the verbs that can get tricky to learn and, of course, to master. And this happens in both ways. It happens also for people who's, let me check something here because I need to check the chat. I don't know why the chat is not showing here. Okay, conversations. Okay, now I have the chat. So I was saying that this is tricky in both ways, because for us Spanish speakers is also tricky to understand the use of the verb to like in English. But of course, we're learning Spanish, and tonight we're going to learn that. Before we begin, I want to thank you for being here tonight. All of you guys who are there out there during this live class, thank you very much for being here. And also the people who's watching this later, because this is part of a playlist that it's going to be available on the channel. So you can watch this video later. If you miss the live class tonight, you can check this later. And also thank you very much for those who are part of the membership program. I really appreciate that. So thank you very much. Remember, if you like the video, you know what to do. Please share with your friends, group, social media, and if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, sorry, click the bell button in order to get notifications, because we are posting videos on a weekly basis. And also this is going to be helpful because if you're a subscriber, you're going to be able to participate during the live classes. The chat is only available for subscribers. So let's start with tonight's class. Tonight's class is we're going to learn about the verb gustar. The verb gustar. The verb gustar is a tricky verb. Oopale. Whoops, sorry. Sorry for that. Give me just a second. That was my mistake. And okay, the verb gustar. I thought I had this ready, but it seems I didn't. So the verb gustar. The verb gustar is one of the verbs that can be tricky to master in Spanish. The verb gustar, to like. The reason this happens is because the way and the structure in which we use the verb in English is not exactly the same as it would be when translated to Spanish. It's not the same. Let's check this with some examples here. Give me just a second. Boom. So in a regular sentence, when we use the SVO structure, subject, verb, object. Let's say I say I play tennis. In Spanish, I can say that in two ways. I can say yo juego tenis, or juego tenis. Remember, we already learned that we can skip the subject in Spanish, the pronoun. We can omit the pronoun. We already saw that class. If you haven't, check the video. It's somewhere out there on this channel. And as you can see, I play tennis. Yo juego tenis. Juego tenis. He brought the book. Él trajo el libro. Right? Trajo el libro. If we know already who we are talking about. We will be there. Nosotros estaremos allá. Estaremos allá. So in these examples, we keep the subject, verb, object structure both in English and Spanish. You see, I, subject, play, verb, tennis, object. Yo, subject, juego, verb, tenis, object. Juego tenis. I omit the pronoun. But nonetheless, we keep the structure. And this pretty much works for all of the sentences and all of the verbs. Some verbs are an exception to this. And one of those verbs, in this case, is the verb gustar. Gustar. This changes in Spanish because when we use the verb gustar, as you can see here, right, we have I like apples. I like apples. When you say in English, I like apples, we are using the subject, verb, object structure. I, subject, like, verb, object, apples, that's the structure. But in Spanish, it's not like that. In Spanish, I say, a mí me gustan las manzanas, or I can say, me gustan las manzanas. As you can see, I, the subject I, the pronoun I in English, if it was like any other verb, I would have to translate that to yo, right? But in Spanish, I say, a mí me gustan las manzanas, or me gustan las manzanas. It's not like that. It changes because me is not a pronoun. Well, it's not a subject pronoun, right? So a literal translation could be yo gusto manzanas. Yo gusto manzanas. And that would be a literal translation that fits the subject, verb, object structure. But if you say yo gusto manzanas, it doesn't make any sense in Spanish. It doesn't make any sense when I say yo gusto manzanas. It doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. So in the case of the verb gustar, the structure changes. The subject changes and we add an indirect object pronoun. So when I say I like apples, a mí me gustan las manzanas, we are actually using an indirect object pronoun instead of the subject. And that's the trick here. Both sentences are okay. When I say a mí me gustan las manzanas in Spanish, which is the right way, and when I say me gustan las manzanas, both sentences are okay, but there's more emphasis in the first sentence. In the first sentence, a mí me gustan las manzanas, I'm being emphatic. We have emphasis there. So there's more emphasis in the first sentence. The use of pronouns in Spanish often help to give emphasis to sentences. So when I say a mí me gustan las manzanas, it would be something like if I were to say, to me, I like apples, which in English, it sounds weird, once again. But the real sentence would be, I like apples, and the real translation would be either, a mí me gustan las manzanas, or me gustan las manzanas. Okay, we can say, okay, yeah, well, yeah, but so what's the deal here, right? The sentence in English, to me, I like apples, doesn't make too much of a sense, right? But this is going to give us an idea on the structure that we use in Spanish. So let's think first about the verb to like as gustar de. That could be a translation and that could be a valid translation. In fact, the best literal translation to Spanish of the verb to like, without having to go through the hassle of dealing with indirect pronouns and object pronouns and such, the best literal translation that we could use to Spanish is gustar de. So if we say instead of, let me check something. Okay, yeah. I thought for a moment I thought my audio was muted, but no, it's not. Okay, so the best literal translation that we could think of for the verb to like to Spanish would be gustar de. That, if we don't want to go through all of the hassle of dealing with the indirect object pronouns and such. So if I say I like apples, the translation would be yo gusto de las manzanas. Check it out. Here we are using gustar de as the verb to like, yo gusto de, right? And we follow all the conjugation rules for regular verbs ending in ar, gustar. Remember that we have classes of regular verb conjugations You can check that also here on the channel. There's a few videos about this. We go in depth about this. And the verb gustar, the infinitive form of the verb gustar, ends in ar. So it's a regular verb. So in this case, gustar de, we follow the conjugation rules for the regular verb ending in ar, gustar. These sentences make sense in Spanish. Yo gusto de las manzanas. And remember, here we have another thing, and it is the use of the definite article. We have I like the apples, right? I don't say that in English, but in Spanish we translate apples, we translate las manzanas, because we're talking about general things, and we use the article in Spanish. Las manzanas is plural and it's feminine, so we say las manzanas. Yo gusto de las manzanas. But let's focus on the verb to gustar, which is tonight's class, right? So when I say I like apples, I can just translate as yo gusto de las manzanas. You like apples, tú gustas de las manzanas, singular, informal, close relationships. Usted gusta de las manzanas would be also you like apples. Usted gusta de las manzanas would be singular, formal. You like apples can be translated also to ustedes gustan de las manzanas, which is plural. And if we were in Spain, for the plural, we would say vosotros gustáis de las manzanas. He likes apples, él gusta de las manzanas. She likes apples, ella gusta de las manzanas. It likes apples, gusta de las manzanas. Remember, we never translate the pronoun it when it's used as a subject pronoun. We like apples, nosotros gustamos de las manzanas, and they like apples, ellos gustan de las manzanas. So, in this case, once again, we follow the conjugation rules for regular verbs in Spanish that ends in ar, gustar, and these sentences in Spanish make sense, but these sentences don't sound natural at all. You can say that, yo gusto las manzanas, and I will understand, I will fully understand, but it's like, this guy speaks kind of weird. That's not the way we talk. So, if you want to learn how to speak natural when using the verb gustar, we have to deal with the use of indirect object pronouns in order to properly use this verb in Spanish. So, let me check one thing real quick here, because I just want to make sure that, okay, so far, I have the chat enabled, but no one is saying anything. I don't see anyone asking or whatever. So I think that everything has been understood so far. I give it for granted. So everything has been understood. So let's talk about the indirect object pronouns. And this is something very interesting in Spanish, right? In Spanish. And we have to understand how to use this if we want to master the verb gustar, the way we really use it in Spanish with the indirect object pronouns. So, indirect object pronouns in Spanish, which are pronombres de objeto indirecto, that's the name in Spanish, are words that replace or refer to the person or persons who receive the action of a verb indirectly. Those are indirect object pronouns in Spanish. They are used to indicate to whom or for whom an action is performed. And these pronouns are a crucial part of Spanish grammar. They can help make sentences more concise, less repetitive. And of course, there's more to this when we talk about indirect object pronouns. But tonight we're going just to learn the part of indirect object pronouns that we need to understand in order to fully master the verb gustar. So these are the singular and the plural forms of the indirect object pronouns. We have both singular and plural, right, for the indirect object pronoun. So we have this table here in which we have 3 columns. In the first column, we have the indirect object pronoun in Spanish. And we have the emphatic form that we can use, and the translation as if it would be in English. So me for I, a mí, me for I, to me, I, te, which is used for you, a ti, te, to you, informal singular. Le can be used for a usted, for you, singular, formal. For him, for he, a él, to him. For her, to her, a ella. And to it, a eso, for it. That would be the indirect object pronoun that we need to learn how to use according to each of the pronouns. I, me. You, te. You, le, formal singular. Le, him. Le, her, and le, it. And for the plural, we, nos, a nosotros, to us. Les, a ustedes, to you, plural. Les, a ellos or ellas, to them, both male and female, les. And us, a vosotros, to you in Spain. Remember, we here are learning Spanish, basically Latin American Spanish. I'm Latin American. I'm from Colombia. So I just let you know that us, vosotros, that form, you can use that if you're in Spain. But if you're in Latin America, you don't use that. So just for you to know. Okay, so these are basically the indirect object pronoun that we are going to use. And how we use this. The way we use this is following these forms, the structure of sentences. We can have affirmative sentences with emphasis. We can have negative sentences. We can have negative sentences with emphasis. And we can have interrogative sentences and interrogative sentences with emphasis. Those would be the structures, regardless the tense. It can be any tense, but those would be the structures. So let's start by checking the structures. Just check the structures. That's the only thing that in this moment, at this point of this video, this is, oh, don't worry, Serena, thank you for being here. Adventures with Red is here. It's in the house. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here. Don't worry. Anyhow, you remember that you can watch this video anytime you want. And we're close friends. You're my best friend. So we can chat anytime. So you can ask whatever question you have. So the structures of the sentences we have for affirmative sentences. We have the structure in English and we have the structure in Spanish. Be careful because this is very important. This is very important in order to master the use of the verb gustar. So when we say in English, I like apples, he liked to play tennis, we will like the new house, they have liked to be here, we are using the structure SVO, subject, verb, object. But when we translate this to Spanish, if we want to say that the natural way, the right way we use that in Spanish, we don't use subject, verb, object structure for affirmative sentences regardless of the tense. We use indirect object pronoun, verb, and object. That's the way we use that. So we use, because it's I, we use me. Remember that we had this table here before. You need to learn and practice a lot this table, or you can take note and have it with you and practice it a lot when using the verb gustar. Gustar, regardless of the tense. So here we have affirmative sentences. I like apples. We use, instead of the subject, we use the indirect object pronoun for I, and accordingly. So in this case, I like apples. Me gustan las manzanas. And we have to use the conjugation of the verb gustar, which is the next step that we're going to learn. In the meantime, just focus on the structure. So the structure for the verb gustar in the natural and real way that we use it in Spanish, regardless is Spanish from Latin America or Spain, is this for affirmative sentences. Indirect object pronoun first, then the verb, conjugated in any tense, of course, and then the object. Me gustan las manzanas. I like apples. He liked to play tennis. Le gustó jugar tenis o jugar al tenis. We will like the new house. Nos gustará la nueva casa. They have liked to be here. Les ha gustado estar aquí. As you can see, the English structure is a regular SVO structure, but in Spanish with the verb gustar is not the same. We use the indirect object pronoun instead of the subject, and remember, this is based on this table. For I, me. For you, te. For you, singular, formal, le. For him, for he, she, it, le. For we, nos. For you, plural, les. For them, les. And for you in Spain, us. Right? That's pretty important. This is very important, actually. And this would be the structure for affirmative sentences. So keep in mind this. Don't worry about the conjugation of the verb, because that's the easiest part. It's funny because that's it. The conjugation of the verb itself is the easiest part. The trickiest part is the use of the indirect object pronoun. So let's go to the next affirmative sentence structure in the case in which we want to give emphasis to the sentence. So let me do this here real quick, because I think, how should we do this? Let me see. Give me just a second here. Okay. There you go. So in English, we have the same sentence. I like apples. Subject, verb, object. It's the same. But in Spanish, if we want to give emphasis to the sentence, we use the emphatic form, which we already saw here on the table. You see, emphatic form, a mí, a ti, a usted, a él, a ella, a eso, a nosotros, a ustedes, a ellos, depending on the pronoun or the subject that we are talking about. We use that part, and we use that first, followed by the indirect object pronoun, then the verb in its conjugation, and then the object. So, a mí me gustan las manzanas. A mí is the emphatic form. Me is the indirect object pronoun. Gustan is a conjugation, which, remember, we're going there. We're getting there. In a moment, we're going to be there. And it's the easiest part. The trickiest part is this. The structure itself is the trickiest part. But here it is. I think this is a pretty much straightforward explanation of this. And luckily, with this explanation, you're going to be able to master this verb. So, a mí me gustan las manzanas. This is emphatic, as opposed to me gustan las manzanas, which is the regular form, right? A mí me gustan. We use the emphatic form first. He liked to play tennis. A él, a él, le gustó jugar tenis. You see, we use the emphatic form and the indirect object pronoun. We would like the new house. A nosotros, emphatic form. A nosotros, indirect object pronoun. Nos, verb, gustará, object, la casa nueva. And they have liked to be here. A ellos les ha gustado estar aquí. Nice, easy, right? So let's move to negative sentences. The structure for negative sentences. We have that here. In English, we do the same. Subject, verb, object, in which we use the auxiliary form in order to be able to do the negative form in the sentence, right? In Spanish, we use the word no, and that's it. So if the sentence in English is I don't like apples, in Spanish I start with no, no. Then the indirect object pronoun me, then the verb conjugated in any tense, whichever tense we need, and then the object. No me gustan las manzanas. Check it out. If it was an affirmative sentence, I just say me gustan las manzanas. The negative sentence is no me gustan las manzanas, and that's it. It's pretty much easy, right? He didn't like to play tennis. No le gustó jugar tenis. That's easy. We won't like the new house. No nos gustará la nueva casa. They haven't liked to be here. No les ha gustado estar aquí. And that's the negative structure for, the structure for negative sentences in Spanish using the verb gustar in the natural and real way we use it, right? What happens if we want to use the indirect object pronoun? Let's do this real quick here. Whoops, here, like this. So we use first the emphatic form and then no, and then the indirect object pronoun, and then the verb, and then the object. And that's it. That's the structure, regardless of the tense. Regardless of the tense. So if I say in English, I don't like apples, and I want to be emphatic, I say, a mí no me gustan las manzanas. A mí no me gustan las manzanas. That's it. He didn't like to play tennis. A él no le gustó jugar tenis. A él no le gustó jugar tenis. We won't like the new house. Emphatic form. A nosotros no nos gustará la casa nueva. They haven't liked to be here. Emphatic form. A ellos no les ha gustado estar aquí. And that's the structure for, I say that affirmative here. I'm sorry. This is negative. Negative. Sorry for this. Negative sentences with emphasis. And this is negative sentences. Negative sentences with emphasis. So I have that covered here. And how about interrogative sentences? How about that? Well, this is just, we use just the same structure as the affirmative sentences. The same structure. The only thing is that for in order to convey the idea that we are asking a question, we use inflection. We use the inflection. So check it out. Do I like apples? ¿Me gustan las manzanas? I can say, me gustan las manzanas. Me gustan las manzanas. Me gustan las manzanas. That's the inflection for affirmative sentence. Me gustan las manzanas. The inflection for interrogative sentence. That's it. The structure is the same. The structure won't change. Structure is the same. Structure won't change. Inflection give us the information whether it is a question or, an affirmative sentence. That's it. And if, of course, if it's in writing, just a question mark at the end. But the structure is the same. Indirect object pronoun, verb, and object. Me gustan las manzanas. Did he like to play tennis? ¿Le gustó jugar tenis? Will we like the new house? ¿Nos gustará la casa nueva? Have they liked to be here? ¿Les ha gustado estar aquí? And that's it. You see, that's pretty much easy. And guess what? If we use the emphatic form in the interrogative sentences with emphasis, it's exactly the same structure with the inflection. Do I like apples? Being emphatic, I would ask, ¿a mí me gustan las manzanas? Did he like to play tennis? ¿A él le gustó jugar tenis? Will we like the new house? ¿A nosotros nos gustará la casa nueva? Have they liked to be here? ¿A ellos les ha gustado estar aquí? And we are covered. So remember, these are the structures if we want to build sentences, regardless of the tense. Both affirmative, natural, and affirmative, emphatic. Negative, natural, negative, emphatic. And interrogative, natural, interrogative, emphatic. These are the structures. These structures are for you to practice and learn. Your skills are going to get better. You're going to get so skilled by practicing this as much as you can. Now we know, or you know, of course, you have learned now the indirect pronouns, both the indirect object pronouns and the emphatic forms used with them. You have learned the structures to build the sentences. And now let's go to the easiest part, which is the verb conjugation. The verb conjugation is so easy. Why? Because in this case, the conjugation is the same for all of the pronouns. It's the same. It won't change. The only change is if it's a singular or a plural. That's it. If the object is singular or the object is plural in most of the tenses. So, for the simple present tense, we have gusta for all of the subjects if the object is singular, and gustan if the object is plural. Check it out in these examples. I like your dress. Me gusta tu vestido. You like those cars. Te gustan esos carros. He likes my house. Le gusta mi casa. It likes to be here. Le gusta estar aquí. We like those books. Nos gustan esos libros. As you can see, the only change in the conjugation of the verb is for the number of objects. Singular gusta, plural gustan. That's it. Remember, as I told you, the trickiest part was really to understand and learn the structure of the sentence. That's the trickiest part. The easiest part is the conjugation of the verb. That's it. And we place that here in the structure, and that's it. Of course, you need to practice, right? So this is for the simple present tense. How about the simple past tense? The simple past tense, liked would be the verb in English. In Spanish, gustó for singular, gustaron for plural. Remember, it doesn't matter the subject. It doesn't matter. This is the conjugation. So if I say, I liked your dress, I say, me gustó tu vestido. Remember, I have to keep the structure for an affirmative sentence. First, the indirect object pronoun, then the verb, and then the object. Me gustó. The verb is easy. That's it. You liked those cars. Te gustaron esos carros. He liked my house. Le gustó mi casa. It liked to be here. Le gustó estar aquí. We like those books. Nos gustaron esos libros. Easy, right? Don't tell me this is not easy. As I told you, this is the easiest part. The trickiest part is the structure. But now you have understood, and now you have the tools. You have the tools. You just need to watch these videos many times as you need in order to get your notes and start practicing. That's it. So let's move to the simple future tense. For singular, gustará. For plural, gustarán. I will like your dress. Me gustará tu vestido. You will like those cars. Te gustarán esos carros. He will like my house. Le gustará mi casa. It will like to be here. Le gustará estar aquí. We will like those books. Nos gustarán esos libros. Gustará, gustarán. That's it. That's it. It can get easier than that, right? For the perfect tenses, can be the future perfect, the present perfect, the past perfect, any perfect tense. Liked, which is the verb, right? The part, the verb in the perfect tenses is always in the past participle form. In this case, liked is a regular verb. Same thing in Spanish. In Spanish, is translated gustado. This is even easier. It doesn't matter if it's singular or plural. For singular or plural, for both singular or plural objects, the translation is gustado, right? And here, the tense is set by the conjugation of the verb haber, as in English, right? In this case, it gets tricky for the verb haber. But we have already a video in which I teach you how to conjugate the verb haber. Check it out. So, I have liked your dress. Me ha gustado. Singular. Tu vestido. You have liked those cars. Te han gustado. Plural. Esos carros. The same. Gustado. You see? He has liked my house. Le ha gustado mi casa. It has liked to be here. Le ha gustado estar aquí. Same. We have liked those books. Plural. Same. Nos ha gustado esos libros. Nos han gustado, I mean. Nos han gustado. Nos han gustado. Sorry. Nos han gustado. See? Easier. Easy, I mean. For any progressive tenses, liking is translated to gustando. Gustando is gerundio in Spanish, but it's a present participle in English. For both singular and plural objects is gustando. It doesn't matter. And the same as in the with perfect tenses, this tense is said by the conjugation of the verb estar in this case. So, I'm liking your dress. Shoot, sorry. Me está. Sorry for this. Me está gustando. I didn't change this. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. Gustando, gustando. Me están. Whoops. Le está. Úpale. Shoot. I'm sorry for this. Okay, now it's fixed. So, sorry. Sometimes I just copy paste in order to go quickly, but it seems I just made a mistake. So, I'm liking your dress. Me está gustando tu vestido. You see, gustando is the same for singular. You're liking those cars. Te están gustando esos carros. Gustando, same for plural. He's liking my house. Le está gustando mi casa. It's liking to be here. Le está gustando estar aquí. We're liking those books. Nos están gustando esos libros. And that's it. Easy. Easy. Now, what about the conditional mode? The would like. Would like is translated to gustaría if the object is singular. And would like is translated to gustarían if the object is plural. I would like your dress. Me gustaría tu vestido. You would like those cars. Te gustarían esos carros. He would like my house. Le gustaría mi casa. It would like to be here. Le gustaría estar aquí. We would like those books. Nos gustarían esos libros. Right? And the subjunctive mood. As you can see, we're covering pretty much all of the tenses. Pretty much. So with this, you're going to be a master of the verb gustar in Spanish. But it depends on your practice, of course. So, with the present subjunctive mood, check it out. The verb to like in the present subjunctive mood may sound unusual in English, as this mood is more common in Spanish to express preferences or desires. Nonetheless, we use it, and the conjugation is as following. Like is translated to guste, a present subjunctive mood if the object is singular, and translated to gusten if the object is plural. Remember, and we have seen this before, not necessarily a subjunctive mood in Spanish is a subjunctive mood in English. Not necessarily. So we need to be careful with this. My friend Serena says, I used that in a restaurant and they just stared at me. What did you use? Sorry. What sentence did you use? Now I'm thinking about this. Let me know. Now you got me thinking. Okay, let me know and we can check on that. So, in the case that you like that dress, en caso de que te guste ese vestido singular, when you like action movies, cuando te gusten las películas de acción, las películas de acción plural. Guste singular, gusten plural. So this is tricky. I would like. Okay, I would like. Me gustaría. No, but you can say if you what do you say? Me gustaría que. I would like what? What do you say? Because me gustaría está bien. Me gustaría está bien. Me gustaría. Me gustaría. I would like to know what was the full sentence. And we can check it out. Maybe we can go and see, hey, you were wrong to the guy who was, or the guys, or the people who were staring at you. So, and last but not least, the past subjunctive mood. Liked in the past subjunctive mood in English is translated to gustara if the object is singular, and gustaran if the object is plural. Gustara, gustaran. If I liked your dress, si me gustara tu vestido singular, if you like those cars, si te gustaran esos carros, plural, if he liked my house, si le gustara mi casa, again, I just missed this here. Si le gustara mi casa, if he liked my house, blah blah blah. If it likes to be here, if it liked, oh man, so many typos here and stuff. So anyhow, if it liked to be here, si le gustara estar aquí, if we like those books, si nos gustaran esos libros, and that's pretty much it in order to understand the conjugation of the verb gustar. So, in a nutshell, let's review this real quick. We want to master the verb gustar. So, the verb gustar, the real way, me gustaría el queso. Okay, no. Yeah, you're right. Me gustaría el queso. If you say, I would like some cheese, if you're at a restaurant, in fact, you need to say, quisiera. Or you can say, me gustaría que me trajeran, or me gustaría comer. You need to be a little bit more specific. That's something related to the use. Oh, we you know something, Serena? Now you got me here. I think we can eventually do the second part of this video in order to get to these tricky details, right? Because yeah, you say, I would like the cheese. When you're at the restaurant and you say, me gustaría el queso. It's correct. It's correct. You say, well, me gustaría el queso. The sentence by itself sounds kind of weird, but in the context, it makes sense. If we are here in a restaurant in Colombia, right? Let's say you come here to visit us. We are having fun at a restaurant. Some guy shows you the menu. You check the menu and they say, okay, me gustaría la sopa. It's perfectly okay. It is totally understandable, right? You're not going to sound weird at all. You can say, me gustaría la sopa. You can say that. You can also say, quisiera la sopa. Or you can say, me gustaría que me trajeran la sopa. Me gustaría comer la sopa. You can say any of those. But trust me, you can say, me gustaría la sopa, and it's okay. It's okay. It's not weird at all. Not really weird. I don't know why that happens. Maybe the context. But trust me. And I hope you can be here in a future. We can go to a restaurant and you can say, okay, a mí me gustaría la carne asada. Me gustaría la carne asada. Quisiera probarla. That's okay. That's totally okay. So don't worry. Okay? It may sound weird if it's not in a context, but anyhow. So let's review this. The verb gustar in Spanish doesn't follow the subject verb object rule. We can try and do that, but if we want to use the subject object rule, subject verb object rule, we need to translate the verb gustar as gustarde, which is different. And it works, but it sounds a little bit unnatural. It doesn't sound natural. That sounds a little bit weird. We understand if you say that, but that's not the way we use it on a regular conversation. That's not the way we use it in real life, right? So if you want to master it, first you need to understand indirect object pronouns in Spanish, because we have the indirect object pronoun and the emphatic form for each one of those indirect object pronouns. And we have for singular and for plural. That's it. We need to make sure we understand that. Once we understand that, we have to understand that there's a structure for the sentence. The structure of the sentences can be affirmative, negative, and interrogative sentences. We need to know this structure in Spanish, of course. And I have a comparison here between English and Spanish. And for each one of the affirmative, negative, and anytime, my friend, affirmative, negative, and interrogative sentences, we also have the emphatic form, which we can use, and we use a lot here. We are so freaking complicated in Spanish. The Spanish is as complicated as we are as a culture. So we also have that. But nonetheless, here you have the structure for it. And once you understand the structure, then you practice the verb conjugation, which is the easiest part, as I told you, because the conjugation is the same for all of the subjects. The only thing that pretty much changes for pretty much all of the tenses is singular, plural. That's it. That's it. And with all the things that you have here, pretty much you have the key to success and mastering the verb gustar. The verb gustar. So interesting class tonight. Honestly, this is something that needs to be understood. Needs to be understood, and it is not as hard when we're learning English, when we learn the to like verb, but it's pretty much complicated for us. It's complicated because we use the verb in a different way. So I don't know if you have any questions. Hopefully you won't, because this has been pretty much straightforward. So I'm gonna tell you some stuff. If in the meantime, if you maybe want to think about some questions and you want to ask the question, but in the meantime, I want to once again thank you for the support. Special thanks to all of those who participate in the membership program. Thank you very much. I'm trying to bring you all of the resources that I think that can be useful for you, and we have resources for all of the levels. Oh, thank you, my friend. We have resources for all of the levels. We have resources for basic, intermediate, and advanced. I have this series of videos called Mike's World, in which I go full Spanish. Full Spanish. I have some videos in which I have conversations with a friend of mine in Spanish, trying not to be as complicated as we can get in Spanish, and working on more stuff. I'm also working on my Patreon site, which I hope to have it ready. The I think, hopefully, crossing my fingers, for I want to start New Year with my Patreon site. Good things there for those of you who want to become patrons and eventually support more my work. If you cannot do that, don't worry. I have over 100 videos right now. I started this channel on March, and I have over 100 videos, and I hope my explanations are clear enough. Remember, I always go in Spanish, I mean in English, because I want you to fully understand. My English might not be perfect, but I try to convey all of the information the best way I can. So for me, this is a real good practice, because I have to think and speak in English the whole time. English is not my, well, you can see that my first language is Spanish, but anyhow. So if you like the video, you know what to do. Please share with your friends, group, social media, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Click the bell button in order to get notifications, because we post videos. We are posting videos on a weekly basis. Great videos, hopefully. I enjoy a lot making these videos. This is from my other channel, Inglés Fácil con Mike. We reached 100,000 subscribers, and right now we're over the 6,000 subscribers with this channel. Luckily, we're going to be able to get to more people with your help, of course. Remember to like the videos. That's going to be helpful a lot, and I really appreciate your help. So I see there are no questions. Let me just double check, because on my phone here I don't see any questions, and here I don't see any questions. So I think everything has been fully understood. Remember, oh, Faith Connell, thank you for saying gracias. Es un placer. Es un placer, de verdad es un placer. Yo disfruto mucho este proceso y trato de que ustedes lo entiendan. So, trust me, with the stuff you have learned today, you can master the verb gustar, which is one of the trickiest verbs in Spanish. The verb gustar. Trust me, you can master. But you need to study. You need to practice. And let me know if you have questions. If you have questions, leave a comment. I'll reply as soon as possible. And remember, study hard, practice a lot. You need exposure to language, so go ahead and do your best. I'll do mine in order to help you with the resources that I'm bringing to you. So I don't see any more questions. So glad to help, and looking forward to seeing you in future classes. So take care, my friends. Have fun. Stay safe and study a lot. Bye bye.